Hey guys, how's it going? This is Billy Eat World, and today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 FPS games that I'm most keen for in 2014-15. There's a bunch of great games coming out over the next year or two for both the next-gen consoles and the PC, but as always, some of the most anticipated are the FPS games. Some of the titles on this list will be some of the biggest budget games ever made, and some are sequels to some of the most popular FPS franchises of all time, so it's safe to say that it's definitely a great time to be an FPS gamer. But just remember that, as always, this list is my opinion, so if you disagree with any of the games I've put on this list, or the order of my top 5, then feel free to let me know what your top 5 is in the comment section below. But anyway, to kick off my list at number 5 is Far Cry 4. For those of you who haven't played any of the Far Cry games before, basically they're sandbox-style, modern first-person shooters, usually set in some exotic country under the control of some evil organisation. The core shooting mechanics of Far Cry games is along the lines of Call of Duty, but being a sandbox game, the game isn't quite as linear. There's a lot more stuff to do, and you can pretty much do it in whatever order that you like. The focus of the Far Cry series is undoubtedly on the single player, which generally will keep you busy for tens of hours longer than your average FPS game these days. For online shooter fans, no doubt you can expect a decent COD-style multiplayer mode in Far Cry 4 as well. From the gameplay trailers that have been released so far, in my opinion, this game looks like it's going to be amazing. The graphics look great, the world looks dense, and a whole range of new features have been added, including new gear and a new co-op mode. I wasn't a huge fan of Far Cry 2, but Far Cry 3 was probably one of my favourite games of the last generation, which leads me to believe that Far Cry 4 will probably be even better. Far Cry 4 will be out this year on November 20th. And coming in at number 4 is Halo 5 Guardians. Now, most of you guys would be aware that I'm a PS4 gamer, but you may not realise that most of the last generation I gamed on an Xbox 360. I've had a connection to Halo since it was released back in 2001, and I've played and owned every Halo game ever since. I must admit, as hard as it is for some people to believe, although I enjoyed both, I wasn't a huge fan of Halo 3 or Reach. I think 343 did a stunning job on Halo 4 though, and it rekindled my love for the franchise in a big way. This futuristic FPS franchise has always been Microsoft's biggest drawcard, and if Halo 5 is not one of the best games of the generation in terms of single and multiplayer, I'd be very surprised. So far, we haven't seen any gameplay of Halo 5, so it's hard to say exactly what the game is going to look and play like, but you can bet it'll be a quality game, which is true to the series. I can safely say that if I don't already own an Xbox One by Q3 2015 when Halo Guardians is set to be released, I'll be picking one up just to play this game. And speaking of Halo, at number 3 in my list is Bungie's new IP, Destiny. I think a lot of you would be wondering at this point why I've only placed this game at number 3, and you'll no doubt be wondering why I placed the last 2 games above it. The main reason for this is that Destiny is a new IP, and even though many people believe it'll be one of the best first-person shooters ever released, I think we all realise now that hype means nothing. Destiny is a futuristic multiplayer shooter, so people are bound to draw comparisons with other games like Halo and Borderlands, but I think with the sheer amount of money being thrown into this project, it'll be a unique game and hopefully a game to remember. I've actually recently just played the Destiny Alpha, which looks amazing. The gameplay is fun and the scope of the game is massive, but it's hard to be excited about a franchise that most people haven't played yet, despite the prestige of its developer. I guess only time will tell as to how the end product turns out, but I'm pretty confident that it's going to be a great game. The fact that this is a brand new IP by Bungie is why Destiny rates as high as it does on my list, so it's safe to say I'll be eagerly awaiting the release of this game on September 9, 2014. At number 2 on my list is Battlefield Hardline. Battlefield Hardline is a brand new police-themed game, rather than a military shooter, so it introduces a whole bunch of different game modes and mechanics while still managing to maintain that authentic Battlefield feel. It's being developed by Visceral Games rather than DICE, so it does feel like a new game in some ways, but as it's running on the Frostbite 3 engine, it plays a lot like a mod of Battlefield 4. After playing the beta of this game for about the last week, I can actually understand why it's drawn mixed criticism from the Battlefield community. For those of you who are familiar with games like Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, this game is both similar enough and different enough to leave you wondering whether it's going to live up to the expectations of the well-established Battlefield fanbase. In terms of the look and feel of the game, even the beta looks and plays great, so I can safely say I'm excited for Hardline despite the fact that a lot of people feel like the game is either a little too arcadey or a little too much like Battlefield 4. Battlefield Hardline will be released this year on October 21. And finally, at number 1 on my list is Star Wars Battlefront 3. I've got so many fond memories of Battlefront 1 and 2, and for almost the last 10 years, I've always hoped the day would come that we'd see a Battlefront 3. It looks as though that day will come sometime in the summer of 2015, and the great news is that the game is being developed by DICE. Battlefront 3 is a large-scale first and third-person shooter along the same lines as Battlefield, so I've got high hopes that DICE will capture the magic of both franchises and combine them into one of the best FPS games of all time. For those of you who never played the original games in the series, what makes Battlefront different from the Battlefield series is that, apart from the fact that it's a science fiction game, it also had bots that played alongside the human players, much like the bots in Titanfall. Battlefront also allowed players to spawn in for a limited time as powerful heroes like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. And for anyone out there thinking that this game will just be Battlefield in space, I think that you're partially correct, but I think it'll add in a host of new features that'll make it stand out in its own right. With the new Star Wars movies coming in 2015, and the fact that LucasArts has actually allowed this game to be officially part of the Star Wars universe and timeline, I think Battlefront 3 stands a good chance of not only being Game of the Year, but also being one of the biggest selling shooters of all time. But anyway, that just about wraps it up, and for any of you wondering why Call of Duty Advanced Warfare or the PS4 version of PlanetSide 2 aren't on this list, well firstly, I'm not a huge fan of Call of Duty these days, and secondly, PlanetSide 2 isn't exactly an upcoming game. That's not to say I won't be playing either of these games because I no doubt will buy and likely enjoy both. Let me know what you guys think of this list in the comment section below because I'd love to hear from you. And if you'd like to see any of these games on my channel in the future, then please let me know as well, because ultimately I make videos for you guys and it's only fair that you guys have a say in what you want to see. But anyway, as always, if you like what you see, please remember to like, comment and subscribe. And if you haven't already, please check out all my other Battlefield 4 videos. I've got them all linked in a playlist in the description below. But anyway, until next time guys, see you later and have a good one.